Kevin Gordon here from AutoSavant.com with your August 14th edition of the Afternoon Commute. It's been a couple days because, in all honesty, the automotive news has been just terrible. There hasn't been a ton that I've been interested to talk about. So, instead, I spent an evening or two putting in our new RAM mount for laptops and iPads in the long-term test EcoBoost Ford F-150. So now, as I do the afternoon commute, I actually have a cheat sheet, which is kind of nice, although don't expect any improvements in quality. Other programming notes: when we get home this evening, I'm expecting to have waiting for me the new Kicker power stage system for the F-150s. And what that is a complete replacement stereo while leaving all the factory components in place from Kicker. It involves a 10-inch subwoofer that lives below the rear seat, and it doesn't involve any wire cutting or anything. We're going to go through and document that as a multi-part installation with improved video quality over the RAM mount one that we did. And so that should be pretty interesting. So moving on to the afternoon commute for the day, let's start with one of my favorite targets, Fisker. Fisker Automotive, the maker of that $100,000 hybrid sort of supercar. Well, last Friday, another one caught on fire. And Jalopnik did a great job of, getting sort of first stab at this happening. They got some video and some pictures. I'm not going to show you any pictures here because they're all by other people that I don't deserve to repost without appropriate credits. And, since the fire, everybody's been asking Fisker, can you tell us why this happens? Now, they really have no idea, but they do know that it started somewhere in the front of the car, which is pretty solid. The reason that I have a feeling, that makes a lot of sense. My feeling as to why they don't know more about the fire is because they've been dealing with a bit of an HR mess at work. And so, what's going on there? Well, that slim, fast, slinging CEO, Tommy Lasorda, which I realize is not the baseball manager Tommy Lasorda, it's Tom Lasorda, has been replaced. His replacement is Tony Posewatz, who was the lead at GM for the Chevy Volt. And Lasorda has actually come out and said, I think this is a genius move for them. Now, I don't know what the fiscal arrangements are, but I'd imagine that Lasorda is going to be just fine departing the company, as I'm sure he had some kind of parachute tied to his exiting the company. Up next for today, the Nissan Deltawing. Does anybody remember what the Nissan Deltawing is? It's that rocket-shaped, pointy front car that they ran at Le Mans this year. Well, they ran it for about 6 hours until one of the LMP1 cars decided they didn't like it and smashed into it and took it out of the race. Well, Racer.com is reporting that Nissan has thrown, this doesn't really make a lot of sense, but they've thrown their hat into the ring. I don't know how you throw a car's hat in the ring, but they've done it to be a replacement car for the current Indy Lights chassis, which dates back to 2002. That's a long time. I mean, think about cars from 2002 and the technology that's changed in them. That's what they're still racing in Indy Lights. There's been no comment by any of the racing teams or the federation, but I'm in full support of this. How exciting would it be to see a bunch of those running around the track? I guess the bigger question is, when was the last time you saw an Indy Lights race televised or anything? I guarantee you, if they put a bunch of Nissan Deltawing chassis potentially running with different power plants out on the track, people will watch and it'll get TV coverage. Up next for today, the IIHS, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, has created their first new crash test since 1995. Well, what are they doing? if you gave me a job at the place where you could go smush cars together, you better well believe that I'd be coming up with all kinds of wacky tests. Now, I understand, they've got to have ones that are repeatable and all the rest of it, but still, since 1995, well, this test is different from all the current ones in the fact that it's an off-frontal impact to try to replicate what happens when a car hits a tree or a pole. And the reason why it winds up being interesting and different is that type of impact avoids the typical energy-absorbing crash structure of the modern crash structure of a car. As a result, much more of the energy is transferred into the passenger compartment and does quite a bit of damage. No one has done great on this new test, but two manufacturers have done good. Volvo with the S60 and Acura with the TL. So I'm sure this will get all of the manufacturers in a bit of a bunch for a while, but the reality is today with computer modeling, once they can figure out what the impact looks like for the computers, they should be able to load it. It shouldn't be that big of a deal to them. And finally, to end today on as much of an up note as possible, not that crash testing isn't an up note, I suppose, the 2014 Range Rover, the big boy, has officially leaked onto the webs, and here it is. It looks like a Range Rover mixed with some Evoque, and I'm not instantly ready to hate it. Every time something new that Range Rover does, people get all upset about it. I'm fine with it. I think it'll grow on everybody and it'll sell just as well as the current one does. But I did have one thought. Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear is in the United States right now. How many curse words do you think came out of his mouth when he saw this picture of the new Range Rover and all the terrible things that they've done to it? And, that got me thinking more that, most people sit around and think about winning the Powerball, which is going to be $300 million on Wednesday. I, for one, sit around thinking about how much fun it would be to sit at a bar with Jeremy Clarkson and have a couple beers while he sort of belittles me for the fact that I really know very much about nothing. So the average person dreams about winning a lot of money, and I dream about getting lightly berated by a fat British man. What's that tell you? I don't really know. Anyway, Kevin Gordon from Autosavant.com with your August 14th edition of the Afternoon Commute. I look forward to talking to you guys soon.